It's hard to believe, but there are an estimated 3 million people in America who have no place to live. Even more shocking, 1/3 of them are now families with children. Children of the homeless don't see the problem as a short-term crisis. It's their life, and it's miserable. They don't talk about statistics or the imaginary safety net. They are often so traumatized, they don't talk at all. But sit down with a child or a parent, and you'll begin to understand what the name homeless is coming to mean. When was the last time that you lived in a house?
When I was 5.
And how old are you now?
11.
Michael Ham is homeless. Where have you been the past 6 years?
In Torrance, in a camper.
He is one of 500,000 homeless children. Anywhere else?
In San Pedro, in a house, but I just went in there for like 2 days and I came out.
Anywhere else?
Hotels. And a shelter.
It can happen to anybody. I always thought that I would always have a place to live, always have food for my kids to eat, because I had a job. Because that's my job, to take care of my children.
It's like it's going to last forever. That's a feeling you get. I've met families that have been out here for a couple of years. You know, I haven't been out here no time compared to what I've seen.
They are nobody's notion of the homeless, yet families represent its fastest growing segment. Los Angeles was shocked last year when it set up an emergency campsite and more than 100 homeless families moved in. No one expected so many kids. The camp eventually disappeared, but the emergency hasn't. Of the 30,000 homeless in LA County, 1/3 are children, living in places that are hard to find and impossible to imagine. Look behind the garage doors. This family of 7 pays almost $400 a month to stay in an unheated space because it's the only way they can stay together. The shortage of low-income housing has become so severe that thousands of families now live where only a car should be put. It's anyone's guess how many more live out of their cars, moving from town to town in search of homes that don't exist. What's hard about moving around a lot, Michael?
The way you gotta tote your stuff around. Like your clothes and stuff.
You mean you're constantly packing them up?
Yeah. So sometimes we just leave them packed, and then if we're there like around 2 months, we unpack them.
Last spring, Michael Ham and his mother unpacked their stuff at the largest shelter in Los Angeles, one of the few shelters that will accept families. It's called the Bible Tabernacle, but to homeless families, it's known as the last resort. More than half the people here are just like Michael, children of single mothers who've been put on the street after leaving a spouse or losing a job. The rules here are strict. Residents must attend Bible study every morning and church services every night. In return, Pastor Fred Hills gives them a space to sleep. If I was to come into this church at midnight, what would I see?
Babies on the floor, on the pews. It would be full of people.
There'd be someone sleeping where we're now sitting?
Right where we're sitting.
So about how many people do you think you house or shelter on any given night?
It's a good number. I wouldn't be able to give you an actual account of it.
100?
Oh, more than that.
200?
More than that. Yes, many more.
Those not sleeping in the church are crowded into the apartments next door.
Hello!
Brenda Gordon and her 3 children moved into the Bible Tabernacle about the same time Michael did. A battered wife, she left her husband, only to find herself beaten again by the system. She has a full-time job, and that's her problem. On $250 a week, she's too rich for public assistance and too poor to afford an apartment. When we met her, she'd been living here for 5 months. How many people live in this apartment with you?
I'd have to count them. Let me see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 adults, I think. And 12 children.
11 adults and 12 children in
Yes.
this one apartment?
Sure.
What do you think that this disruption of their lifestyle is going to do to your kids?
It's probably made them a little unruly, but that's because I don't want to discipline them. I think they're being, well, I don't want to say punished, but enough.
You mean by just what's happened to them?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel you're being punished somehow?
No.
Brenda, do you feel that people care about what happens to you and your kids?
Not society. No.
No?
No. They don't know me. I mean, who am I?
Who are you?
I'm a mother and a lady. And somebody trying real hard to keep her family together.
But despite that effort, families like Brenda's are slowly being destroyed. The shelters were supposed to be a temporary solution, but with no low-income housing being built, they've become a transition to nowhere. The children play in a parking lot. They have nothing to count on, but more of the same. The Bible Tabernacle tries hard to keep these kids healthy with 3 meals a day. But the very nature of this place often defeats its good intentions. It was never designed for children, and the overcrowded conditions have only created more problems. So every Tuesday night after dinner, the dining hall is transformed into a doctor's office. Pediatricians like David Wood treat the results of piling kids on top of each other.
When they come into the shelter, they're exposed to all kinds of colds, other viruses that cause diarrhea, and other infections are passed around, so that they can very quickly become ill. You've never had asthma before? They have higher rates of almost every kind of illness. They even have higher rates of chronic illnesses. Take a deep breath, Marco. Good.
The farther away you are from the problem, Wood says, the easier it is to have pat little answers for it. He can't escape homeless families. Last year, he and the staff of the Venice Family Clinic saw 5,000 people, like Val Johnson and her kids. Johnson lost her job at the Air Force Base, and that's all it took.
How many days were you on the beach?
Almost 3 weeks.
3 weeks on the beach?
Sleeping outside, yeah.
Is it pretty scary down there?
Yeah, it is. It's real scary, but it's all right. He has a rash, too.
The children's rash can be treated, but their emotional problems will only get worse with time.
Murphy's just upset at the world right now.
Is upset at the world?
Angry all the time.
All the time?
Yeah.
Is it really hard to deal with sometimes?
Yeah.
It makes the children very upset, very anxious, very depressed. Each child reacts differently. Sometimes they react with behavior problems, like biting and kicking and fighting, being really difficult to control. Other children withdraw and become very sullen and depressed and uncommunicative.
What's happening to these kids?
There's going to be a lot of anger, hostility in them, a lack of security, and I think we're going to see these children acting out in different ways. Instead of acting out as a 5-year-old by biting and kicking, they'll act out as a 12 or 13-year-old by robbing and doing other violent crimes.
For children like Michael, the only stability left is in the school. Yet it's estimated that less than half these kids attend classes with any regularity. Have you been in a lot of schools?
Yeah,
Do you know how many?
around 14 or 15.
14 or 15 schools?
Yeah,
Why so many schools?
we're moving around.
Last fall, Michael entered 6th grade at the school near his shelter, Coeur d'Alene Elementary. Its principal, Beth Ogina, has seen the number of homeless students here double in just 1 year.
Approximately 1/3 of our student body are homeless. Many of them are living at the Bible Tabernacle. We have some students who are living out of cars or different situations. So yes, we do have a high transiency rate.
What does that do to a kid's education?
We find that the kids are in emotional trauma. They have tremendous learning needs, but emotionally, they don't have a base. We have kids that are 7 years old that can't tell us the names of their sisters and brothers. We have some of them that can't count for us from 1 to 10. It's not that the kids don't have the innate ability. It's not that the kids aren't bright enough. They have the intelligence. It's the fact that there's so much that goes on with the emotional part of it that really blocks them, or the fact that they're so transient.
What do you think of Michael Ham?
Oh, he's a wonderful child. He's bright, he's enthusiastic, he's also very troubled. He has great potential, wonderful potential. And I see that sometimes the environment that he's in has hurt that.
Homelessness follows Michael into the classroom. The unstructured life he lives at the shelter causes discipline problems here, and it constantly threatens any confidence he's built up.
At the shelter here, the staff, they don't like me.
Oh, now why do you say that?
They just don't like me.
Why do you think that, Michael?
I don't know.
Have they said something to you?
They just think I'm a little bad boy. They just think I can't do it.
Does that hurt your feelings?
Kind of, because I'm trying to prove to them that I can do it.
That you can do what?
Be good.
Is it important to you that people think you're good?
Yeah, so I could do better things.
What does that mean?
Like go higher in the world.
How high in the world do you think you are right now?
Middle.
Michael has pretty good self-esteem. He knows he's very bright, but many of them do not. Many of them recognize that in the classroom, their performance is considerably lower than other kids, so they see that they just don't measure up.
You talk about his potential. At what point does he run the risk of losing that potential?
I think two things could happen. If he could get in with somebody that mattered to him as a positive role model that could take him under their wing, maybe he could really enact on it. If not, then if he would get involved in the wrong group, the wrong peer group, it could be a real negative thing. He could use all that potential in it to be a negative leader.
Does it ever make you mad that you have to move all over the place when other kids don't?
Yeah, because I think of myself when I get older, like around 13 or 14, I'm going to be in a house. But then it's coming up and then I get mad because I ain't in a house.
My last day with Michael, he took me to the beach near his shelter. He comes here to get away, but can't help noticing the tents set up by other homeless people. When he talks about the big problem, he sounds like a government official.
People just don't, they know, nobody's homeless. They could always get a job.
You think so?
Yeah.
But when asked how it affects him as just one little boy, he has no easy answer.
Do you ever, Michael, worry about your future?
No, because I think about it. I worry about it a little bit because I think about it. Then I, like say, I want to be an Air Force pilot.
Yeah.
And then I see police officers and stuff.
And then you want to be one of them?
And then I say, what about the Air Force pilot? I don't know what to do.
What do you think makes it so peaceful for you out here, Michael?
The quietness.
Yeah. It's a lot more quiet than the Tabernacle.
Yeah.
But do you ever worry that you won't get out of the Tabernacle?
Yeah.
A month after we left the Bible Tabernacle, so did Brenda Gordon. She found an apartment, but could only afford enough space for one child, so she's left her other two kids with a relative. Her family is no longer together. Val Johnson and her children still are, but they are also still homeless. As for Michael, his mother left him altogether. She walked out of the shelter and never came back. Michael now lives with foster parents. This fall, when he turns 12, he will enter his 16th school, without his family and with no home he can truly call his own.